Man, it has been an eventful 24 hours for the Boston Red Sox. What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Red Seat Radio. My name is Corbin, and thank you very much for clicking on this video. Just a heads up, we normally do our weekly live streams on Wednesdays. This week, we're going to be doing it tomorrow instead of today. I just wanted to make sure everyone knew. Either way, though, the Boston Red Sox, they've won 2 games in a row, and really, they've been games that the Red Sox probably shouldn't have won. It has been an absolutely fantastic feeling being a Red Sox fan over these past 48 hours, and yesterday's game in particular was an absolutely wild ride that started with a roster move, and that roster move was obviously to get Walker Buehler back on this team. He was on the IL for a little bit with that stuff in his shoulder, I believe it was, right? Something that he said he didn't really need to be on the IL for, but the Red Sox were being cautious with. Either way, he came back in yesterday's game, and in order to do that, obviously, the Red Sox needed to move someone down to AAA or get rid of someone on their roster, and their decision was to option Nick Burdi. Now, I'll be totally honest with you, I had no idea that Nick Burdi even had options on his docket anymore. I figured because he was on a minor league deal with the Red Sox, because he's been in professional baseball for such a long period of time, that he didn't have any options left, so kind of nice to figure that out. But honestly, I was a little bit surprised by this for a couple of reasons. One, I thought Nick Burdi was going to end up being DFA'd, right? That's an obvious one. I just talked about it. I was sitting here and I was like, oh my God. Initially, I was like, ah, crap. There's no way Nick Burdi gets through waiver wires. We're definitely losing that guy. But 2, I was a bit surprised because right now the Red Sox have 4 left-handed pitchers in their bullpen. They've got Newcomb, they've got Bernardino, Wilson, and obviously Chapman. Now, you probably aren't getting rid of Chapman or Wilson, obviously, considering they're both on major league contracts, and obviously Chapman's been one of the better closers in baseball this season, but that's a pretty much 50-50 split right now. You've got 4 lefties and 4 righties coming out of the Red Sox bullpen. I figured, just sort of mentally here, that Nick Burdi would stay with the Red Sox because it unevens out that a little bit, and normally, major league teams, they don't carry a ton of lefties like this in your bullpen. So my initial thought with Buehler coming back was that they were either going to DFA Sean Newcomb or they were going to option Brennan Bernardino. However, after sort of thinking about it for, 10 seconds, 20 seconds, and passing my initial reaction here, I actually think the Nick Burdi option does make some sense. It would have been a really difficult decision to DFA Sean Newcomb because he's been honestly pretty successful for you this year, right? He's kind of a heartbreaking pitcher. He's a guy who's going to go out there and he's going to make it look like he's struggling heavily on the mound, but he's also been one of your most valuable pitchers on your team if we're looking at WAR, right? He's pitched a ton of innings for you in sort of that cleanup, mop-up role, and when he does do that, it's not like it's a terrible job. So I understand holding on to Newcomb, especially considering you were most likely going to lose him if you were going to DFA him. I also kind of understand holding on to Bernardino too. I think that was the other option here. As much as Nick Burdi's had a fantastic month in AAA, and as much as he sit there and you say, hey, maybe this guy could help out the bullpen, Brennan Bernardino has legitimate major league experience, and he's had a successful one this season. I know he just had a blow up, 3 or 4 games ago for you in that Atlanta Braves series where he walked 3 dudes and ended up walking in, 2 runs for the Atlanta Braves and basically costing them the game. But outside of that, he's had a really great season so far. In most of his outings this season, he's ended up with a scoreless appearance. He actually, in a lot of his outings, doesn't even allow a hit, right? You talk about needing sort of stable, everyday guys in that bullpen for lower leverage situations. Brennan Bernardino, he kind of fits that perfectly. So I kind of get the Nick Burdi optioning. In all honesty, the other thing with the option is I'm kind of surprised he wasn't up here sooner. I get he wasn't on the 40-man roster, but, the bullpen had been struggling for a bit in this season so far. They needed to shake things up a little bit. Burdi's got options. I'm surprised they didn't go with him sooner, but overall, with this roster move, the roster move specifically, I have absolutely no issue with. I think this ended up being the right thing for the Red Sox to do, even though my initial reaction was, I don't know if losing Burdi in this situation really makes a ton of sense, but I thought about it, I figured it out, we're okay. But what it led to was a pretty crazy night. When was the last time you saw both the starting pitcher of the Red Sox and the manager of the Red Sox get ejected in the same game? What about in the 3rd inning? I didn't do any sort of research on it, so I'm genuinely asking, when was the last time you guys saw this happen? Because it feels like it's been a very long period of time, but the ump in this game made sure it did. And God, I hate this. I hate when umpires come out here and they totally transform the entire landscape of the game, right? I get it. Buehler probably shouldn't have been barking at you. I get it. You got a little bit of ego behind the dish, whatever. But you legitimately totally changed the landscape of a baseball game in the third inning just because your feelings were hurt. I don't love when the umpires do something like that. It feels like the ump show is the way a lot of people describe it. It certainly was the ump show in this game up until the point where Buehler got kicked out because, I don't know, he's kind of, I get it, right? Buehler probably should have kept his head on a little bit tighter, but he kind of had a right to argue balls and strikes here. I mean, take a look at the breakdown. The second pitch here is the pitch that Walker Buehler was arguing. He had every right to argue this one. I mean, any umpire, specifically a major league umpire, should recognize that that is pretty comfortably a strike in the strike zone, right? That could have changed the entire game, and that umpire missed that call, and Walker Buehler says, hey, dude, that was down the middle, and this umpire gets his feelings hurt? I think that's a little bit ridiculous. I mean, that's genuinely what he said. Right? Here's the video. There's Walker Buehler literally saying, hey, that's down the middle, and this guy starts walking out and goes, get back on the mound. He had such a quick trigger that it totally changed the landscape of the game. I hate when that happens. You also get Alex Cora involved in this, right? Maybe the most animated I've seen Alex Cora in a very long time. He was genuinely upset with this umpire, and rightfully so, I think. And again, I get it. I think there's going to be some arguments that Buehler shouldn't have said anything, that Buehler should have just shut up and pitch. I understand that, but if you're a competitor and you're a feisty competitor like Walker Buehler is, that's going to rub you the wrong way, and I think it just sort of got to him by that third inning. But it did lead to some pretty great moments, didn't it? Obviously, some pretty funny moments with Alex Cora, some pretty funny moments with Walker Buehler. They also ended up getting a shot of Alex Cora destroying a bullpen phone, which I thought was absolutely hilarious. Again, not something you see all the time from Alex Cora, this type of emotion in a game. But then they used the bullpen phone, the broken bullpen phone, as sort of like a rallying cry for this team, right? You had Tanner Houck holding that thing up like it was a boombox in the rain. Just some pretty awesome moments for the Red Sox. And honestly, the most awesome moment it led to was just a flat-out unbelievable performance from this Red Sox bullpen. Because the ejection happened so early in the game, Buehler was only able to throw 2 1/3 innings, which meant the Red Sox bullpen needed to make up 7 1/3 innings just to give you a shot at winning this thing. And not only did they do that, they kind of put the team on their back here because in those 7 1/3 innings between 6 different guys, they combined for 7 1/3 innings scoreless. They allowed just 4 hits over that span and 1 extra base hit. A flat-out gutsy performance from the Red Sox bullpen, and it makes it even more impressive because you're coming off a night, the night before, where Hunter Dobbins got pulled after, 4 1/3 innings? So they had to use a lot of these guys last night as well to come out here after sort of being thrown into this situation and pick up the slack the way you were. Brennan Bernardino, right? He comes in, no warm-up. You get a couple of minutes to warm up, and then you got to face Juan Soto in the heart of the Mets order, and he gets out of that thing. Slayton looked really good in a big situation. Whitlock looked really good in a big situation, right? Yet guys who had been struggling in clutch situations here kind of be the reason you've won a baseball game. And that's now the second night in a row we can kind of say that. We can kind of say that the bullpen saved the Boston Red Sox. And to me, that's the biggest takeaway of last night, right? Because how many times this season have we sat there and said, hey, the Red Sox bullpen's the reason we won this baseball game? I don't know too many times this year, right? There have been plenty of times where we've said, hey, this bullpen's the reason we lost this baseball game. But how many times have we said they won it? These were 2 games that you weren't supposed to win, right? You come into the first game against Kodai Senga, who's one of the best pitchers in baseball at that point. You get a couple runs off of him, and then the bullpen shuts you down. You come into last night, you lose your starting pitcher after 2 innings. You've got Clay Holmes on the mound, who's looked really good this year. You weren't supposed to win either of those games, and yet you did because of what they were able to give you out of the bullpen, and I think that is an absolutely fantastic sign for this Red Sox team. If the bullpen can be like this on a consistent level, they're going to start winning a whole lot of these one-run baseball games that have been plaguing this Red Sox team. This is the difference between being a winning team and being a losing team, is getting these gutsy performances, rallying behind situations, and coming together to win these games. I absolutely loved what I saw from the Red Sox bullpen last night, and I don't know that that's highlighted if the umpire doesn't decide to be the star of the show. The other thing I wanted to talk about quickly before we wrap up today's video is Carlos Narvaz. If we're talking about reasons the Red Sox have won these last two games, Narvaz absolutely has to be at the top of that list, or towards the top of that list, I should say. I still think the bullpen's up there, but Carlos Narvaz is not too far behind him. What he's been doing behind the dish this year has been absolutely incredible. Taking a look at his Baseball Savant page, he's in elite status. We're talking about a top 5, top 7-ish catcher in the league when it comes to defensive metrics, but he also backs that up with a really solid bat right now. He started off pretty slow on the season. Well, actually, he had like 5 really good games during the season and then cooled off, but he's figured it out a bit at the plate. He had 3 hits in this Mets series, including a home run last night, and he's currently slashing .280 with a .346 on base percentage and a .466 slug, which is good for an .812 OPS and a .127 OPS plus. His bat has been 27% more productive than the average bat in Major League Baseball right now. You combine those two things, you're talking about what, a definitive top 5 catcher in Major League Baseball. A lot of us were pretty high on Carlos Narvaz coming into the season. We've been saying for a while now that Connor Wong should be maybe not riding bench the entire time, but he definitely should be getting less starts than Carlos Narvaz. This is why. Right? Because right now, Narvaz is impacting this Red Sox team on every level imaginable. Defensively, offensively, both contact and power-wise. He's been an incredibly productive bat and player for the Boston Red Sox, and it was just immediately highlighted in last night's game. Even sort of the off-field stuff. There's just sort of the interesting way he goes about talking about at-bats. After the game 2 days ago, where Justin Wilson struck out Francisco Lindor with the bases loaded, he actually talked about the approach to that, and it's really, really impressive just how much he knows about the game. I could sit here and gush about Carlos Narvaz for days at this point. I think he's been one of the better ads and one of the more underrated ads to any Major League team this offseason. I'm incredibly happy with what you're getting from Narvaz, but overall, I'm just incredibly happy, right? These were 2 really, really impressive games from the Boston Red Sox. These were 2 really gutsy performances from the Red Sox, specifically the Red Sox bullpen. And again, we've been waiting for, hey, is there something here that's going to be able to turn your corner? Is there something here where you're going to be able to get yourself on a roll? This is the type of stuff that allows you to do that, right? This is the kind of games where you sit there and you build on and you gain some confidence, you gain some momentum, a little bit of swagger too, right? And I think these are really important. And again, at the end of the day, you weren't supposed to win this game. You snuck out a series against one of the better teams in Major League Baseball. That's an incredibly great sign. But that's just my opinion. So let me know all your thoughts on a wild 24 hours for the Boston Red Sox. What did you think of the ejection? What did you think of the roster move? What did you think of the bullpen? What are your thoughts overall? Let me know down below. As always, if you made it to the end of this video, do me a favor. Make sure you guys have hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. If you're new here, we talk Red Sox content almost every single day. Also, make sure you guys have hit the like button on this video as well. It just simply helps out a ton. It's the best way to let me know you're enjoying the content. Don't forget, if you guys want to listen instead of watch, all you got to do is head over to your favorite podcasting app and look up Red Seat Radio. Thank you all very much for clicking on this one, and I will see you in the Red Seats.